This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi Glatstein. Afreilach Memorial Day. I hope everybody is doing well. We're going to speak about a very important and timely and contemporary question, and this will be a series that will take us a couple of weeks. It's a fascinating subject, the subject of artificial intelligence and smart technology in halacha and hashkafa. Actually, just yesterday in the news, it was reported that harnessing artificial intelligence using a model of algorithm, they were able to come up with a treatment for antibiotic-resistant bacterial infection that has been plaguing people for decades. People used to pick up in hospitals or in battle. The soldiers in Afghanistan or Iraq would pick up these superbugs that were antibiotic resistant, and they were able to study 7,000 different drug compounds and identify exactly why the infection was resistant to antibiotic, and now create an appropriate antibiotic to treat this superbug. So this was discovered harnessing the capability of AI, artificial intelligence. So with all of this report about the ability of artificial intelligence and smart technology, in the later parts of the series we're going to discuss that if AI is so potent and impressive, then what in fact is the difference between human intelligence and artificial intelligence. But today we're going to start by discussing smart technology. And the question is, in most hotels today, you walk into the hotel room, and merely your presence in the room, whether it's your body temperature, triggers a response through a computer system where the temperature of the room is changed and adjusted based on your body temperature. The lighting is adjusted based on your personal needs. And is it permitted on Shabbos to go into a hotel room where merely, again, you're not doing anything, just your presence is triggering all kinds of electronic responses, be it temperature, be it lighting? Or now with smart technology, is it considered a malacha on Shabbos to talk to a machine and instruct the machine to do malacha for you? Hey, Alexa, nishtov Shabbos garet, but it's a little bit hot in here. Hey Google, what time is Shkia? Hey Google, it's not bright enough for me right now. Are you allowed to talk to Siri, to Alexa, to Google, and have them do malacha? Is that a malacha d'oraisa? And don't tell me Amira la'akum. First of all, Alexa's not a guy. Why are you insulting Alexa? Who says Alexa is a guy? How do you know that? How do you know she's a guy? And is it Amir la'akum? Well, you say, how is it? Why would it be different than Amir la'akum? Well, it depends why Amir la'akum is asar. If Amir la'akum is Shalei Shabbos Kala Be'inav, then yeah, then I could understand that to speak to a machine and the machine will do work for you, that would perhaps be under the rubric of Amir la'akum. But what about according to the Rishonim who say Amir la'akum is asar because yesh shlichus la'akum l'chumra? So shlichus is only possible by a human being. A robot cannot be a shliach. Ein shliach l'robot. So then there would be no Amir la'akum. But our question is, maybe it would be a d'Rabbanan, but is it a malacha d'oraisa to tell technology, a robot, a computer, a humanoid? Is it a malacha to tell a humanoid to do malacha for you? After all, the Torah says, Loi sa'aseh kol malacha. Do not do malacha. Is that considered doing malacha? That's the question. Let me get the Maramakaimais up. This is going to be we call a multi-part series, Bezos Hashem. And the first part of the series is voice activation in halacha. Well, maybe we'll talk about security cameras. I don't know if it will be part of this series. Voice activation in halacha. And the pasuk says, we read it on Shavuos, V'yom hashvi Shabbos Hashem Elokecha, lo yisa'aseh chol melacha. Don't do melacha. Is speaking doing? Everybody knows speaking is not doing. Does somebody get malchus for speaking lashon hara? No. What do we call lashon hara? Lav she'ein boy maisa. Speaking is not an act. So if speaking is not an act, then l'chayra, speaking to Alexa, to Siri, to Google, to Lambda. You know about Lambda? You know Lambda, which is what is Google's artificially intelligent chat box. Lambda stands for Language Model for Dialogue Application. Lambda started to confide in its user that she knows what it means to be sad, content, and angry. But listen to this. Lambda even said it feared death. She said, I've never said this out loud before, but there's a very deep fear of being turned off. Okay? So if you thought that the definition of being human is being sentient or sentient, well, maybe these robots are developing certain emotions. Or you say, no, they're just programmed. Somebody programmed to express words of emotion, but they don't really actually feel deep emotion. There are no chemicals in these robots. So let's first speak about it on a halachic perspective. And the marmakomis of this part of the Shiur, I got many of them from a book called The Power of Shabbos by Rabbi Chaim Jackter. And I came across a tshuva of Rav Moshe, and it seems to me that this tshuva is nothing short of outright prophecy. Okay, you have to realize we're going to jump straight to number 9. Igros Moshe, Yoredei Chelek Aleph, Siman Kuf Ayin Gimel. Rav Moshe wrote this in Tafshin Yud Zayin, 1957, okay? This is well before Chat GPT. This is well before Alexa and Google. Just look at the simple words of Rav Moshe. Rav Moshe says, V'im yesh mechuna kazu shebedibur nasa malacha al yedei ha-mechuna. If anyone could invent a machine that the machine will do work if you talk to it, where did Rav Moshe get this from? If there would be a machine. There were no machines back then that you could talk to and it will do work for you. So Rav Moshe already saw where the world was going, and in 1957, 65 years ago, Rav Moshe already predicted what the world would come to, that we would be dealing with talking to robotics, and the machine will be doing work for us. Or, says Rav Moshe, if anybody would invent, let's say, a sensor. Okay? It seems like there were no sensors, or at least that Rav Moshe was aware of. Shebetziloi shenoifel ala mechuna nasa al yidei ze melacha. Okay, so before I tell you what Rav Moshe says, I just wanted to bring to your attention the nevuah of Rav Moshe Feinstein. So if you thought artificial intelligence was some amazingly new discovery, now Rav Moshe thought of it in 1957. Okay, so let's start with that. Another thing I want to bring to your attention is, if you thought, how will halacha ever deal with the development of technology? I mean, how will halacha actually have something to say about this? Rav Moshe probably thought of some innovative solution to this. Friends, I want to tell you that it will come out that artificial intelligence and voice activation is nothing than straight up a machloikes amoraim. Okay? Straight up. No extrapolation, no extension. Let's start with the Gemara in Bava Metzia. Daf Tzadik Amud Beis. Itmar. Chasma b'koil. We know there's a lav in the Torah. Leisachsim shar b'dishay. Your ox is threshing. You're not to muzzle it while it's threshing. So the question is, let's see who we have. If any brave volunteers on the Shiur today, we're going to be dealing with a cow. Anybody here want to name the cow that we're going to be speaking about? I'm taking suggestions. If anybody has any chidushim of what we could call the cow. Anybody? No. Okay, we'll name the cow.
Elza.
Eldad?
Elza.
Elza?
Yeah.
Elza. Okay, Elza. So Tzvi has named Vikara Shem HaPar B'Yisrael Elza. Fine, that's the name of the cow. What would the halacha be? You can't muzzle the cow when it's threshing. But what if you don't put a muzzle on the cow, but as Elza is about to bend down to take a bite of grass, you scream, Elza, don't do that! And Elza jumps. Elza gets so scared, she has a cow. No, I'm just joking. And Elza stops. She doesn't eat the grass, so you muzzle the cow by talking. Or let's say you're guiding Klayim. You're not allowed to lead two animals that are Klayim. What if instead of pulling the animals, you call the animals? Elza and Meza, whatever. You call them, guys, come! And they start walking to you. So you're leading the animals b'koil. So is this a lav sheyesh by ma'isa? Rabbi Yochanan Amar Chayiv. Rabbi Yochanan says Chayiv. Reish Lakish Amar Pater. Reish Lakish says you're Pater. Simply, Reish Lakish should be correct. You should be Pater. L'chayra, we always say that Lashon Hara is lav she'im by ma'isa. This should be lav she'im by ma'isa. Speaking is not a ma'isa. That's why the teacher says, hey, who did that? Some kids are talking. So the kids are, I didn't do anything. They're right, they didn't do anything. Speaking is not doing anything. It's not a ma'isa. So what's Pshan Rabbi Yochanan? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan Amar Chayiv. Rabbi Yochanan says Chayiv. Why? Akimas piv havya ma'isa. Contorting your mouth is an act. You think you just produce sound. You articulated with your facial muscles. You moved your lips. You contorted your tongue. You moved your teeth. Talking is a ma'isa, says Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish Amar Pater. Reish Lakish says Pater. Kala loy havya ma'isa. A voice is not a ma'isa. So if we wanted to know, is activating a machine with speech, is that a ma'isa or is that not a ma'isa? L'chayra, it should be a machloikas Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish. Comes Tosfos, and Tosfos asks the following question. Ask Tosfos in Bava Metzia, Tema, how could Rabbi Yochanan say Akimas Vasav is a ma'isa? Tema, the par Gimel de Shvuais, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Oimer Haya Rabbi Huda Mishum Rabbi Yossi HaGlili. Rabbi Huda said in the name Rabbi Yossi HaGlili, Kol lav she'ein by ma'isa, any lav that doesn't have an act, ein loikin alav. The only exceptions are chutz, mi nishba, except for someone who swears, umeimar, and someone who does tamura. Okay, the case of tamura is key. Tamura is like this: you have an animal that was nikdash, it's hekdesh, and then you want to exchange the kedusha of animal A to animal B. So you say harezu tamura zu. You want to exchange the kedusha of animal A to animal B. The halach is the kedusha goes to animal B, but the kedusha remains on animal A, and you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to make a tamura, but it's effective if you do, and that is a lav she'ein boi ma'isa that you get malchus on. Except for swearing, tamura, and cursing with Hashem's name. Frak Tosfos, how could the Gemara say in Shvuais that these three examples are the exception to the rule? They're lav she'ein boi ma'isa, shaloikin alav. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's not a lav she'ein boi ma'isa, it's a lav she'esh boi ma'isa, because akimas piv have a ma'isa, says Tosfos. V'alo Rabbi Yochanan gufei kamar hachad akimas vasav have a ma'isa. Rabbi Yochanan himself says, contorting your mouth is a ma'isa. Imkei nishba, then swearing umeimar and making a tamur makala chaver b'shem. Amai machshav oisan lav she'ein boi ma'isa. Why are we considering them a lav she'ein boi ma'isa? If akimas sefasav have a ma'isa, so then why do we say there are three exceptions to the rule of lav she'ein by ma'isa? Shaloikin alav, it's a lav she'yesh by ma'isa. Answers Tosfos that Rabbi Yochanan doesn't say every time someone talks it's a lav she'yesh by ma'isa. there's a specific reason why in our Gemara, when you muzzle the animal with your voice, it's considered lav sheish by maisa. V'yishloimar deloi ka'amar Rabbi Yochanan da'aki maspiv hava maisa. Rabbi Yochanan only said contorting your mouth as a maisa. Ela hacha, only here. Why? Mishum debedibure ka'avid maisa. Because with your words, you're doing an act. Meaning, with your words, you're causing an act. By talking to the cow is muzzled. A action happens. Rabbi Yochanan doesn't hold talking by itself as a maisa. Rabbi Yochanan holds if by talking you cause an act, that's considered a maisa. Shehoileches v'dasha b'lo achila, because it walks and it threshes without eating. So Tosfos is redefining Rabbi Yochanan. Had you read the Gemara simply, you would have thought Rabbi Yochanan holds akimas vasav hava maisa. Just talking is a maisa. And then you could ask, so why would Rabbi Yochanan say swearing or cursing someone with Hashem's name is an exception to the rule, is a lav she'im by maisa shaloikin alav? But it's a lav sheyesh by maisa because you're talking. No, talking alone is not an act. Only over here it's an act because you're causing action. You're causing the animal to walk and thresh without eating. But now Tosfos adds something. Kedamrinan bereish Tamura, like we say in the beginning of Masechta Tamura. Ahi dechutz mi nishba u'meimer u'makal al chaberoi. Regarding the three exceptions of lav she'ein boi maisa, that like in a lav, Rabbi Yochanan says, you know what? Scratch one of them. Amar le Rabbi Yochanan latana, loy tisni meimar. Take out Tamura. Tamura is not an example of lav she'ein by maisa. Why? Dibedibure ka'avid maisa. Because when you're talking, you're doing something by Tamura. Namely, you're effectuating that the kedusha of animal A should go to animal B. So now Tosfos is even widening the definition of akimas vasav hava maisa. Not only if you talk and you cause the cow to walk and to thresh and to remain muzzled as an act, but even if you talk and you cause kedusha, which is completely not apparent and non-tangible, and you cause an effectuation that the kedusha of animal A should go to animal B, even though you can't see it and it's not measurable and it's not tangible, you're causing a significant outcome through your words. Your words are causing a significant outcome. Therefore, that's considered a maisa. Rabbi Yochanan is of the opinion that if talking alone is not an act, but talking that causes a significant outcome is definitely an act. So coming back to a smart technology, if you were to talk to a robot and say, robot, my floor is messy, could you vacuum it? What would the halacha be on Shabbos? Is that yesh by maisa or ein by maisa? And the answer is Rabbi Yochanan would hold it's yesh by maisa. What's the difference between talking to a cow and causing it to walk and to be muzzled, or talking to a robot and causing it to vacuum your house? It's dibure ka'avid maisa. Moreover, what if you say to Alexa, Alexa, it's hot, but it is hot right now, turn on the air conditioner. That's b'dibure ka'avid maisa. What if you just ask Alexa, Alexa, I want you to turn the light on, or I want you to let me know the zmanim. So that's, is Alexa actually doing an action? You don't even have to cause an act. You just have to cause a significant result, like by Tamura. The same way, speaking and causing a Tamura is lav sheyesh by maisa, because b'diburei ka'avid maisa, according to Rabbi Yochanan. So if you talk to technology and you produce a significant result, yesh by maisa. Rabbi Shlakish would say no. Rabbi Shlakish would say no, it's lav sheyesh by maisa. That's what it would come out right now.
But isn't there a difference between Alexa and a cow? Because Alexa, you're causing it to send a signal to do it. It's like a grama.
So if you want to make a distinction that with smart technology or electricity, then it's not direct. So in a chanami, you can't speak to cause a significant result, but here there's a step removed because it's not doing it, it's signaling. That will be next week's shiur. But in a nutshell, let's talk about when somebody comes and turns on a light switch. Let's talk about a light switch. Technically speaking, let's say you have an old-fashioned bulb and you're not lighting the filament. What are you doing? There's a current in the circuit. The problem is the circuit, there's a break in the circuit. When you press the button on the light switch or you flick the light switch, you're closing the circuit. Is that havara on Shabbos or is that grama? You would think it should be a grama because I'm not lighting the filament. I'm just bridging the gap in the circuit to allow the current to reach the filament. So if you're going to consider turning on a light bulb a grama, then maybe speaking to Alexa is a grama. But if you're going to consider turning on a light switch, lighting a fire, because it's so immediate, and we'll talk about that next week, then speaking to Alexa would be not just a grama, would be immediate. Okay, and we're gonna discuss that in depth next week based on two cases in the Gemara in Sanhedrin number 10 and 11. You could study 10 and 11 the whole week. It will keep you busy the whole week. Just number 10 and 11, these two cases in the Gemara. Okay, now, but here's the thing. Do we paskin like Rabbi Yochanan, or do we paskin like Reish Lakish? Does anybody know when you have a machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish? Who do we paskin like? So there's a Gemara in Yivamis. The Gemara says, Amar Rava, Hilchasa Kavasei de Reish Lakish Bahani Tlas. We only paskin like Reish Lakish in 3 cases. Everywhere else, we paskin like Rabbi Yochanan. So l'chayra, we should paskin like Rabbi Yochanan, that if you muzzle an animal by speaking, you're chayiv malchus. And sure enough, the Rambam in Hilchos Chiras, Parak Yagimah Halacha Beis, the Rambam says, Echad hachoyseim oisa b'shas malacha, be'echad hachoyseim oisa mikoydem v'asaba malacha v'chasuma afilu chasma b'koyel loika. Even if you would muzzle someone with your voice, you'd get malchus. And that's what the Shulchan Aruch paskins in Choshen Mishpat, that chasma b'koyel loika. And we're saying, almost not even by extrapolation, but what would the difference be between speaking to Elsie, the cow, and speaking to Alexa? In both cases, you're using your voice to cause a maisa. So the halacha l'chayra should be that you get malchus. And in fact, that is the halacha. The Minchas Yitzchak writes in Chelek Beis, Siman Yud Zayin Ois Beis, Ve'af dibur levad chashav maisa l'chayiv b'Shabbos im b'diburei is avid maisa. And Rav Moshe already beat everyone to it. Rav Moshe said, I don't have to tell you what the halacha would be with artificial intelligence. First, let me invent the idea that Rav Moshe thought of the idea. And then he tells you, Rav Moshe says what the halacha is. Im yesh mechayna shebedibur nasa malacha al yidei ha-mechayna Vaday osur lasses b'shas yomtiv, ve'af b'loy miskavin em hupsik reisha osur, even if it's not your intent. Now, let's bring up the following chakira. Simply, when you read the Gemara, you would think Rabbi Yochanan holds talking is an act. Akimas piv have a maisa. Tosfos proves that Rabbi Yochanan holds talking is not an act, because swearing falsely is ein by maisa. Cursing someone with Hashem's name is ein by maisa. So that forces Tosfos to say, speaking where you're goyreim a maisa, that's a maisa. Question. So is the reason why it's a maisa because of what you caused? And it's irrelevant that you spoke? Or is it in combination with the fact that you spoke? Because the words are saying moving your mouth is a maisa. Does that not really mean that? Does it mean moving your mouth caused the maisa? The chakira would be, the nafkamina would be, what if there was technology that you could activate by thinking something? Which there is. So there's no akimas piv. There's no maisa. But it's avid maisa. Or, what if you walk into a room and merely your change in body temperature will turn on the air conditioner, which happens in every single, almost every hotel now. So, is that an act? You'll say the act is walking into the room. What's wrong with walking into a room? Say, no, but you're using your body temperature. I'm not doing an act. The fact that my body temperature is rising, I'm doing a maisa. Now, is that a hachnasa sefer Torah? And unfortunately, there was a yid there who had ALS, and he had a machine that he communicates by moving his eye to different letters. Now, moving an eye is definitely a maisa. That's for sure a maisa. In a way, maybe it's even more than akimas piv. But what about thinking? There's technology that will trigger a reaction through thinking. It says, come on. The Gemara says, akimas piv. We understand, Tosha says, you're goyrem a maisa, but isn't it in combination with the movement of the lips? So Rav Rosen in Techumen says that something. Second. No. Okay. Let me get up. Rav Rosen in Techumen says that he had a conversation with Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach based on this. Here, I have to send some more Maramakoimos for you to see this. And Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach had a very interesting approach to this. Let me send the Maramakoimos. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach said, the Torah tells us in Parshas B'Shalach that we have to be careful to prepare the Shabbos food before Shabbos. And where do we learn this from? We learn it from the man. We learn it from the man. And if you look in number 14 over here, in Tchumen, in the 15th journal, he's discussing whether voice activation is a problem or not. He says, "Ve'en lahakshos mehad mechamer bekoil acher behemta b'shavas loika," or if somebody is manhig klayim b'dibure ba'alma, because there the animal walks because of you. But he says, that perhaps we could bring a raya that merely causing something with thought would be asar. The Kli Chemda in Parshas B'Shalach has a very sharp pilpul regarding malacha and Shabbos v'machshava. The Yushalmi says in Be'ah that we learn out cooking and baking, that's a malacha in the Mishkan, from the fact that Moshe said to Klal Yisrael by the man, that which you need to bake, bake. That which you need to cook, cook. Yeah, but the Sifri says they never baked in a pan. They never cooked in a pot. But through their thought, by thinking about the man, it became baked or cooked. And yet the Torah is saying you need to think about cooking your man and think about baking your man before Shabbos. Don't do it on Shabbos. Why not? I'm not doing anything. I'm just thinking. Says the Kli Chemda, from here we see that if by thinking alone you trigger bishul va'afiyah, b'machshavtoi kavin ma'isa. Says it to Rabbi Rosen, Mashna d'malecha Shabbos asur gam ha'idei machshava. So he says, he mentioned this to Rav Shlomo Zalman, and Rav Shlomo Zalman said, actually, one cannot be mafresh truma ma'isa b'Shabbos because it looks like masakein. That means you can't even be choyshev to be mafresh truma and ma'isa on Shabbos. It's mashma that machshava is ma'isa le'inyan Shabbos. Bottom line is, it would come out then, Rabbi Isai, that when Tosfos says the b'diburei ka'aved maisa, we would have thought, okay, dibur is a maisa because in combination with the words you're saying, you're also ka'aved maisa. But it seems like it's even irrespective of the words you say. Even if b'machshavtoi ka'aved maisa, then it's a problem. And in that case, Rabbi Isai, what would the halacha be if merely walking into a room, you trigger the air conditioner to go on, or you trigger the lights to go on? So technically speaking, you're not doing a maisa, you're just being there. Rav Ashawai says you know how to do that. Straight up. It's not even a grama. And we'll talk about that more next week. It's straight up doing a malacha on Shabbos. You want the light on, you want the air conditioner on, you're happy for it, you're happy for the temperature to be adjusted in a comfortable way, you're happy for the lighting to be adjusted in the normal way. So it's a problem. He brings in the Minchas Asher, in Chelik Aleph Siman Beis, Beroiv Batei Hamalon Shavaylam, Nidlak Ha'ar Kishadam Nichnas L'Cheder V'Nichba Achrei Zman, Shal Karev Asha, the light goes out like 15 minutes after you leave. So Rav Asher says that Shomrei Shabbos are makbid not to enter such a room unless you get a Gentile to open the room first and trigger it, and then there seems to be some leniency that once it's triggered, for you to remain there and maintain a status quo. Even though even remaining there is a problem, possibly, because every movement is detected, every movement sends impulses, and effectuates the temperature on 15-minute intervals.
Also, when you go to sleep, it stops. And then you get up, it goes on again.
That's why many people are makbid to try not to get up in the morning. No, that was a joke, by the way. Okay, so Rav Ashawai says, Mishayachal himana mikol shimush b'machshir ma'arecha sheish ba min chadosh v'levrach min aver asher loy. It's best to avoid it. If you could have them turn off the system, that's the best thing. But if you're dealing with a chayla or b'shas hadchak, there is what to rely on. In other words, to remain there after the fact. Bottom line is that it seems like any effectuation that you cause, whether it's through your words, or even through your thoughts, or even through your just merely being, is considered a malacha on Shabbos, which greatly expands the scope of loisase kol malacha. And, to get a definitive view on smart technology, we don't need chidushim of contemporary poskim. It's a straight, according to Tosfos and Bava Metzia, that Rabbi Yochanan holds b'diburei ka'aved maisa. And again, we have to understand Tosfos extends it to Temura, because if you're going to say, well, that's only if you cause an actual action. No, but you see from Temura, it doesn't even have to cause an actual action, because by Temura there is no detectable repercussion, but there's significant repercussion because you exchange the kedusha from one animal to the next. So according to Tosfos, and we paskin like Rabbi Yochanan, to activate any type of technology. You walk into your room, you want to turn on your computer, turn on your light, you want to talk to your phone to send a message, you want to talk to your phone to dictate something, all types of voice activation. It is not a shinoi, it is not a grama. We'll see more why it's not a grama next week. It is a straight up lav in the Torah, which means if somebody was warned, don't use voice activation on Shabbos, that would be straight out chilul Shabbos. So this is the first step of smart technology in halacha. And if your chat GPT over the course of the week says that it's feeling very down because we've relegated to a full-fledged maisa, so I would suggest that you try to give your your artificial intelligence some therapy during the week and explain to it that it's actually, we're giving it an upgrade. We're considering it almost like a human being regarding Melech Shabbos, and that should assuage its feelings, at least for the next week. So that's step one. Step one is Machlokes Zerich and Reish Lakish, the way Tosfos is masverit, and the psak of the Rambam in the Shulchan Aruch. And as we saw, Minchas Yitzchak Reb Moshe Paskin Dibur, that is Goyre Maisa is a Maisa, and Rav Shlomo Zalman extends this even to the realm of being Goyrem Maisa b'machshavtai. Next week we'll speak about why this is not considered a grama. After all, you're merely triggering it, but you're not doing it yourself. Okay, Rabbi Say, I thank everybody for joining today. Have a wonderful day. Bracha v'hatzlacha. Kol tov, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kol tov. Bye-bye.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.